In the autumn of 1415, an English army landed in France, hungry, sick, and already dying. They had come for conquest under King Henry V, but the campaign began with mud, disease, and empty promises. The march from Harfleur to Agincourt was not a tale of gleaming knights, but of barefoot archers dragging themselves through cold rain, of men sleeping in wet hay, and of villagers that greeted them with spit. Yet, against a larger French force, this battered army would fight one of the most lopsided victories in medieval history. Before the arrows flew, there was only mud, hunger, and the long road to Agincourt, where desperation, not strength, would decide the day. You're standing in France, and everything hurts. Your legs are stiff. Your back aches. Your stomach is either empty or bubbling with something that should be illegal in any God-fearing kingdom. Your boots are full of blood. You're not entirely sure if it's yours. It's October 1415. The wind is sharp enough to flay you, and you've been walking for weeks. They told you this would be a righteous campaign. God's work, King Henry said so, right before he loaded. The ships with half of England's poor, starving, limping sons and pointed them at Normandy. You were told there would be plunder, glory, bread. So far, there's been bread once. It was green, and the glory mostly smells like diarrhea. You remember Harfleur. You remember holding a rotting plank while your friends died beside you. You remember digging trenches with your hands. You remember the rats, the sickness, the taste of boiled leather. Half the army didn't survive the siege. The other half pretended it didn't happen. Now you're marching again, through villages that don't wave, through fields too ruined for harvest, past farmers who spit as you pass. The French don't want you here, and honestly, you don't blame them. You sleep in wet hay. You wake up to frost in your eyebrows. You eat whatever your sergeant doesn't claim first, mostly dried peas, sometimes horse. When it rains, your cloak sticks to your skin. When it stops, it's because the wind is trying to skin you alive. You haven't bathed in 3 weeks. There's a man in your company who swears he coughed up a worm. You believe him, but the king is smiling. Always smiling. He reads Bible. He tells you you're chosen. You'd like to be unchosen, preferably with a hot meal and both feet. Still, you march. The banners flap weakly in the wind. The trumpets sound like they're apologizing. Somewhere, the French army is waiting, fresh, well-fed, sitting on war horses that cost more than your entire village. You try not to think about that. Your job is simple. Stay upright, carry your longbow, and don't die until it's properly dramatic. No one told you France would be so damp, or that your blisters could get blisters, or that when the lice bite you at night, it feels personal. The official orders say you're heading toward Calais. The gossip says you're surrounded. Your commander says there's a shortcut. You know how shortcuts go, but there's no point arguing. You gave up choice when you signed your name, or had it forged, or were simply too poor to say no. Now you're here, half dead, whole, miserable. Somewhere up ahead, a nobleman is polishing his sword and composing a speech about valor. You're trying to remember what warm feels like. They'll write songs about this campaign one day, but they won't mention the smell. They won't mention the hunger. They won't mention you. You keep walking, through mud, through cold, through silence. The villages are ash. The sky is iron. Your captain calls it a shortcut, but you can already feel it. Something's coming, and it's going to be worse than this. Much worse. You wake up soaked. Again, it rained all night. The kind of cold that climbs inside your bones and asks if it can stay a while. Your cloak is wet. Your bowstring is wet. Your soul is probably wet. You peel yourself off the ground like old cheesecloth. Word spreads through camp. The French are coming. Well, they've been coming for days. Actually, slowly, confidently, like people who know they'll win. They've finally caught up. You hear the numbers, 5-1, maybe more, tens of thousands of them. All cavalry, banners, shining plate. Nobles with names longer than their swords. You're a peasant with a stick. A longbow technically, but still just a stick with string on it. You've trained with it for years, but right now you'd rather have a hole to hide in. The French are fat with food and pride. You've had salted meat twice in a week, and the last piece moved when you poked it. They slept in beds last night. You slept in something that might have been a puddle or a communal latrine. Unclear. They ride horses taller than your dreams. You smell like fermented boot. They have priests to bless them and poets to remember them. You have a man in your company, named Elba, who only speaks in grunts and once ate a pigeon raw. But your king is smiling. Henry, he doesn't blink much. That's how you know he's serious. He walks among the camp in armor that doesn't squeak, with a sword that looks like it remembers the last 10 wars. He speaks with that voice, the one that makes you forget how cold you are for a moment. He says this is the place. This muddy little gap between 2 forests. This narrow sloshing field. This is where we make our stand. You look around, there's nowhere to run. No walls, no hills. Just trees behind you, mud in front of you, and the smell of something large. And French, drifting on the wind, you string your bow carefully, trying not to snap it. You knock your arrows and whisper to them like charms. You try to remember the rhythm of drawing, breathing, loosing. Your fingers are already numb. Hear the French across the field. Laughter, horses, metal clinking. They're in no rush. Why would they be? They outnumber you, outfeed you, outshine you. To them, this is going to be a squash, a parade. They brought wine. You brought anxiety. Still, you do what you're told. Line up sharpened stakes, tie rags. Around your boots, your captain tells you to dig a little, just in case you feel like not dying today. You look left and right. The men beside you are breathing hard. Some pray, some vomit. One is crying, very politely. There are birds overhead. Even they seem nervous. But there's something in the air now, not courage. That would be too generous. It's more like a quiet readiness, a grim pact. If you're going to die, you might as well take someone expensive with you. You plant your feet. You whisper something that might be a prayer or might be a curse. You can't tell anymore. The sun rises, pale and unimpressed. You try to keep from shaking. The horns sound. The French begin to move. And somewhere inside you, the nausea gives way to something colder. Focus. It's time. You're an archer. That means you get to stand in front of everyone who matters and die first. They say you're the backbone of the army. You feel more like bait. You have 6 arrows in your belt. Maybe a few more stuck in a mud-caked quiver, if you can reach them in time. Your bow is made of yew, English yew, the good kind, tall and pale and angry looking. It's taller than you, and if it snaps, it might take your hand with it. You test the string. It sings. Your shoulder does not. You dig a hole and drive a wooden stake into the ground in front of you, tilted forward, like a mouth full of rotten teeth. It's not for decoration. It's meant to ruin a charging horse. You don't know who came up with that idea, but you hope he died peacefully in bed, and not the way you're about to. Everyone's quiet now. Just the wet sounds of boots in mud and a few strained grunts from men trying to look braver than they are. You see Henry in the distance, holding his helmet under his arm like a sermon waiting to happen. The orders are simple. Stand here. Hold your ground. Shoot anything with a plume. You were hoping for something more poetic. You were wrong. The French are still laughing. They're waving flags. They're polishing armor. Some of them are jousting each other for fun. One of them, swear to God, is wearing golden shoes. You try not to cry. Your part of the army is thin lines of tired men, flanked by trees and puddles. The field is narrow, choked by woods on both sides, a bottle waiting for a cork. The ground sucks at your feet. It's already begun swallowing the weaker men. The mud isn't just mud. It's manure. It's blood from yesterday's butchered horses. It's human waste from the camp latrines. You can smell it through your scarf. You taste it. You breathe. You feel the weight of your bow. You've pulled it so many times, your back has grooves in it. Your fingers are calloused. Your shoulders ache like old wood. This is all you know. Draw, breathe, release. Behind you, the second line is watching. Men with bills and spears and eyes that have already given up. You wonder who will break first. The French knights start forming up. Hundreds of them. Plate armor that catches the morning sun and throws it back in your face like a challenge. They look like gods. You feel like mud with teeth. You hear your captain wait for the command. You want to run, you won't, because the field is too narrow and the trees too thick. And the only thing behind you is the king's standard and more mud. So you knock your arrow. You whisper something to it. A prayer, a name, maybe a curse. You glance down your line. Everyone else looks like you, cold, wet, silent, doomed, and standing anyway. A horn sounds, not loud, but final. You grip your bow. The wind moves through the grass like a whisper of fate. You see the French horse begin to move slowly at first, then faster. The mud accepts your boots a little deeper. You draw your bow and wait for the world to end. The horn sounds again, and then they come. The French knights begin their charge, slowly at first, picking their way through churned up earth. Then faster, louder, the sound builds like thunder in a tin drum. The ground shakes, your chest shakes, your teeth rattle. Then quiet. You've forgotten to breathe. Then louder again. Metal on metal, horse on mud, man on fear. You raise your bow, you don't aim. There's no point. You just point it in the direction of too much noise and let go. The arrow vanishes into the grey. You knock another you. Loose it, and again, you. Lose track of arrows, of time, of thought. It's just rhythm now. Draw, release, pray. Around you, the other archers are doing the same. The air becomes a storm of splinters. It hisses like rain made of murder. You hear horses scream. You didn't know they could. You see one rear stumble and go down, its rider flying off like a rag doll into a bog. You hear metal crash, but not like in songs. It's a messy sound, wet, blunt, something being ruined. You see a knight, huge, proud, polished, sink, chest deep into the mud, kicking and flailing like a drowning beetle. You almost laugh. Then he screams, and you don't. You keep shooting. The mud is doing your job for you. Their glorious charge is no charge at all. It's a slow mature stampede into a swamp. Arrows tear through mail, through eyes, through lungs. Men fall, crawl, scream, vanish beneath hooves or filth. You see one knight crawling forward with a dagger in his hand. Another Englishman brains him with a mallet. No glory, just bone and silence. You were told knights were invincible. You believed that once. Now they look like furniture being thrown into a river. You keep moving, stepping sideways through corpses and ruts, pulling more arrows from the men who no longer need them. There's a moment when you realize they're not reaching you. They can't. The mud is too deep. The arrows are too many. You think for a moment that you might live. That thought feels dangerous, but the noise keeps fading, and the horses are fewer, and the sky has not yet fallen on your head. You look to your left, another archer, soaked and weeping, loosing arrows like prayers. You look to your right, a boy with blood on his face, smiling like he forgot how. Somewhere in the fog, someone yells, "Push," and the line moves forward, cautiously. Spears, axes, knives, into the mire to finish what the arrows started. You stay behind. You've run out of arrows. All you have left are splinters in your fingers and a bowstring coated in sweat and silence. Growing slowly where chaos used to live. You're still alive. Your arms are numb. You smell blood, rot, wet leather, and a strange, bitter triumph. You can't hear much. Your ears are still ringing from 1,000 deaths. You step over. A knight's helmet. There's still a face inside it. The sky weeps quietly. So do you. The field has stopped being a battlefield. Now it's something else. A pit, a slaughterhouse, a stew of screaming and steel. The French keep coming, because they have to. Behind them, more French. Behind that pride, there's no room to move, no room to breathe. Just iron, panic, and feet slipping in the flesh of friends. You watch one stumble. He doesn't fall, he sinks. Another tries to help him and is pulled down too. It's like watching knights drown in land. The mud is up to their waists. They can't lift their swords. They can't run, and you're already inside their line. Your commander said this would happen. The narrow field, the trees, the mud. But he said it with a map. Not with a broken rib and someone else's blood in his hair. You're not even sure what weapon you're holding anymore. A hammer, a knife, a stake. It doesn't matter. It goes into a man's throat just the same. He groans. You feel nothing. A warhorse collapses beside you, crushing 2 men under its armored weight. It kicks once, then goes still. You step over it. Piles of bodies block the way forward. You climb over them. Some are still alive. Some are trying to surrender. Some are praying. You don't listen. You don't have time. The French are trapped, crushed against each other, like meat in a press. They can't swing their swords. They can't even lift them. You watch a knight scream for mercy in Latin. He gets trampled by men on his own side, trying to run backward. You smell blood, wet leather, horse sweat, bile, and something else. The sharp, stomach-turning stink of spilled guts and fear. You didn't know intestines had a smell. Now you do. There is no formation anymore. No left flank or reserve. Just people, heavy, angry, scared people, stuck in a death funnel they can't reverse out. Of Joe, you see one Frenchman drop his sword and raise his hands. He gets a boot in the teeth. You don't know if it was deliberate. Doesn't matter. You don't remember when you stopped feeling anything. Your hands work like they belong to someone else. They push, they strike. They search corpses for useful things. Your ears ring. You don't hear orders anymore, just grunts, steel. and the wet sounds people make when they stop being people. A man grabs your arm. You don't know why. He says something, maybe in French, maybe in English, maybe in prayer. You shove him off. You step into another man's blood. It's warm. Everything else is cold. A banner falls. You think it was important. You wipe your face with your sleeve. The sleeve is not yours. Neither is the blood on it. You don't recognize your boots anymore. Too much mud. Too many parts of other people. You look down, then wish you hadn't. You breathe through your mouth. You try to walk without looking at the ground. The sun is still up, but it feels like dusk. Your king is somewhere ahead. You hope he knows what he's doing. You don't. You thought it was over. You thought winning meant the screaming stopped. But now the king is shouting. His voice cuts through the wind like a bad omen. He says, "Kill the prisoners." You blink. Maybe you heard wrong. Maybe your ears are still full of blood and thunder. But no, the order stands. Clear, cold, final. You're not a noble. You don't get to ask questions. You just do what the crown says and hope it doesn't damn you too hard. The men you're told to kill, they're not threats. Not anymore. They're unarmed, bound. Some are wounded. Some just sit there, stunned, like they haven't caught up to the day yet. They were knights. Now they're hostages. Important ones. Rich ones. But someone says more French are coming. That another wave could crash over the hill at any minute. You look toward the trees. Nothing yet. Just nerves and rumors. But the king won't take the risk. Not with you so outnumbered. Not with the battle barely won. Not with hostages who could pick up a sword the moment. You look away, so you do what you're told. You try not to look at their faces. You try not to hear their words. Some beg, some pray, some scream. Things you don't understand. Maybe curses, maybe apologies. One just stares at you. Eyes wide, mouth shut, like he's daring you to do it. So you do, and then you do it again and again, until your arms hurt more from this than from the battle. One of your comrades throws up. Another argues, yells that it's wrong, that it's murder. The officer hits him hard enough to quiet the guilt. You stop counting. They don't resist, not really. Too tired, too confused, too civilized, maybe. You wish they'd fight back. It'd be easier. A man tries to bribe you, offers gold, land, horses. You don't even respond. You just finish the task and sit down in the mud and try not to scream. You wash your hands in a puddle. The water turns pink. Then red dot, you throw up in a ditch that's already full of things no one wants to identify. The sky is turning pale with dusk. Or maybe it's dawn. Time stopped mattering hours ago. You glance at the king. He looks calm, like a man who's made peace with what peace costs. He walks among the bodies, his cloak soaked at the hem. He says nothing. You don't either. You tell yourself you had no choice. You say it again. You try to believe it. The ravens don't care. They were coming either way. Silence falls, a deep one. No banners, no cheers, no songs. Only the rustle of wind across broken armor and the buzzing of flies. You're still breathing, somehow, but now you're not sure why. They say it was a miracle. They say you were outnumbered 5-1, that God favored the righteous, that the longbow saved England. You're not so sure. You didn't see a miracle. You saw mud, blood, screaming, and a lot of dead horses. You walk across the field, or what's left of it. It's no longer a battlefield. It's a butcher's yard. Men trampled into paste, helmets split like rotten fruit, flags torn, soaking in filth. The rain has stopped, for now, but everything is still wet. Your boots, your sleeves, the back of your throat. You breathe, and it smells like rot and metal. You haven't eaten since yesterday. Or was it the day before? Time's slippery when you're elbow deep in someone else's gore. Some lord rides past you on a clean horse. His armor shines. He smiles. Says something about St. Crispin's Day. You stare at him until he stops talking. They say you'll be remembered, that this is history, that this is how legends begin. But you didn't feel like a legend when your friend took a lance to the ribs. You felt his hand twitching. You said his name 3 times, just in case he could still hear it. Then you stood up, because you had to, and walked on without him. No one noticed. You pass a line of French nobles, laid out in a row. Some still have their teeth clenched in surprise. One's missing a shoe. You're told not to touch the bodies. The king wants them counted. Some clerk is already scribbling numbers on wet parchment, as if math makes sense of any of this. There's a pile of bows, yours among them. You set it down quietly, like saying goodbye to a friend who kept you alive and ruined your shoulders. You get handed a hunk of bread and a coin. The bread is hard, the coin is light. The victory, you're told, is glorious. You limp back the way you came, through woods that never wanted you, past trees that still whisper about men who bled at their roots. Your legs barely work. Your fingers shake. There's blood on your tunic, and you're not sure whose it is anymore. You overhear nobles talking about banners and prisoners and ransom. You think about the man you stabbed in the neck because the king said to you, "Don't think anyone will pay ransom for him." The songs will be written, tapestries woven. The sermons already preach divine favor, royal courage, and the strength of English arms. They won't mention the smell, the mud, the twitching, the way someone called for their mother in French before you silenced them forever. You were there, you won, and you feel like a ghost. You'll be remembered, not by name, but as one of the dirty, hungry ghosts who somehow didn't die that day. Glory doesn't feel like much when you're still soaking wet.